Let's see what a takeoff and landing looks like using a tail camera. All checks have been done. We're scanning left and right for entering airplanes or taking off airplanes. Get lined up with the runway. We're slowly advancing the throttle as we watch the engine instruments to make sure we've got what we need. And mainly that it's developing full power. When we get to about 60 miles an hour, the wing will start flying. You've got a crosswind, you've got to hold it on, and you've also got left turning tendency. So you're giving it a lot of right rudder. You need a lot of right rudder to counteract the centrifugal force of the propeller and engine. Without it, you'll actually be thrown over to the left. Whatever the wind and turbulence is on the ground, it's a lot more when you get off the ground. You have the earth slowing it down, the friction on the ground. I'm not making any turns until I get 500 feet off the ground. The stain on the bottom of the fuselage is not oil. It's a anti-corrosion sealant that gets pushed out through every crack by the difference in air pressure. Starting the crosswind turn and climbing to pattern altitude, about 1,000 feet above the airfield. About a 30-degree bank. We're looking intently for traffic that could be entering the pattern, calling in our position on the radio. About a mile away from the airport, we're going to commence our turn for the downwind leg, which will put us parallel to the runway. Even on flat land, the difference in terrain, whether it's wet or dry, creates thermals that creates turbulence. On the downwind leg, we're getting parallel to the runway, roughly a mile out. And we have to do whatever we need to steer against the wind, to crab into the wind, to hold us roughly parallel. We're looking over the field to see if there's any aircraft on it and to see the wind indicators. Right below the left wheel, you see a field burning. That's an excellent wind indicator. Also, sometimes you're looking for dust, even the movement of water if you're over water. When our landing spot is 45 degrees off to our left, it is time to start the approach. Typically, I do a power off approach. Actually, just let the engine idle, so you're landing essentially dead stick. It's a glide from here. You trim it for about 80 miles an hour, and you'll glide right in. It's a good skill to learn in case you have to land without an engine. Commencing the base leg turn, which puts the runway off to our left, the end of the runway, the touchdown spot. Here we're trying to judge if we're too high or too low. Is the wind pushing us toward the airport or pushing us away? The decision about how much flaps to use is made at this point. Normally you put them down in increments like that, 20 degrees of flaps. Gives you more drag, and drops the nose gives you a better view. Flaps also lower the stall speed, the speed at which the wing stops flying and you drop out of the ground. Of course, you want to do that about a foot off the runway. This airplane will stall at 65 miles an hour, but it will stall at 55 with full flaps. Maintaining 80 miles an hour gives you a good margin above the stall speed. Landing is the most hazardous phase of flight. Everything's getting worse. You're getting lower and you're getting slower. So the next time you're on an airliner, relax when you're taking off, because everything's getting better. You're getting faster and higher. Getting down to the altitude where I'm really looking at the runway, this is always a good chance to go around from here if you don't have a stabilized approach. You really got to get on your game here. You're looking through the windshield at your aiming spot, your landing spot, determining if you're too high, too low, sinking, rising, whatever. You either got to add power or cut power or go around perhaps. Also determining the crosswind component. You may have to crab, fly sideways, or whatever to stay on the center line right until you touch the surface. You're not done flying when you're on the ground. There's still gusts that can blow you sideways that you've got to counteract with the tail. Sometimes in extreme circumstances you have to counteract crosswinds with aileron even. So you've got to stay on it until it's tied down. We've left the flaps down because that gives you a lot of braking too, the drag. Entering the taxiway, we can steer with differential braking like you use on a tractor. Getting off the runway, we announce that we're clear of the active runway on the radio. Heading down to the other end of the airport to do it again. Some days you say, that was scary. Let's do it again.